All right, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our Lean Leadership Forum. I realized in the process of setting this up, I set up a parking challenge and a find a room challenge at the same time.
And we got a lot of exercise.
Did you get a lot of exercise and things?
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll have to sort of work on it. Turns out that we usually hold it in the business building next door, a little bit nicer room, a little easier to sort of direct people and find. But they're doing some IT infrastructure upgrading there, and they blocked off a bunch of rooms, and they wouldn't let me have it for this afternoon. But anyway, welcome. I'm glad that you all can make it. So today we're lucky enough, we've got Chuck and Terry. Is that acceptable?
Prairie, Southern Italian.
Okay. Hey, Chester, welcome. So Chuck just moved into the neighborhood not too long ago. Maybe at some point in this presentation, he'll tell you a little bit about his background and himself. But we're real lucky to have him. And we're sort of talking about, well, what could you talk about? And we talked about this idea of lean failures, or what could go wrong with lean. And I said, yeah, we've probably got some people that got some experience with that kind of thing, and it could make for a good conversation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chuck. Let him sort of take us through the next little bit, and as we want to talk, we'll talk.
Thank you.
Right,
Thank you, Eric. Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. Lean is an interesting topic. You've all had experience with it, some way, somehow. I needed some things at the drugstore. I needed a toothbrush, and toothpaste, and so I went to the drugstore. I walked in, I got my toothpaste, I got everything I needed. I went up to the counter, and there was a long line, and I waited. And I watched the checkout clerk, the cashier, if you will, and there was about 10 people in front of me. And as I was moving in front, the checkout clerk, a male, didn't look at one of the people, didn't acknowledge them. There was no eye contact, nothing. When they finished, they paid him, they got the receipt, not even a thank you. I moved up, everyone was treated the same. I continued to move up. I got aggravated. So I asked him, don't you realize that all the people in this line are customers? And they pay for the store, they pay for your job, they pay for profitability. He wouldn't look at me, he wouldn't acknowledge me, he couldn't care less. So I said, don't you even say thank you? I paid, he gave me my receipt, he laid the receipt down, he pointed, he said, it's on the receipt. Thank you is on the receipt. So I took that receipt, I went to look for his boss, who I couldn't find, because I wanted to tell him what I thought. And do you think I would go back to that drugstore again? No way. Lean is about value to the customer, isn't it? Bottom line, bringing value to the customer, going beyond the customer's expectations. In the drugstore, he didn't do any of that. Therefore, you lose him. He loses me. That's how you lose customers, by not taking care of them, by not going beyond their expectation and treating them with pleasure. Lean is a new way of doing business. We all haven't recognized that. Did you know that if you take new wine and pour it into an old wine skin, do you know what a wine skin is? Sort of like a kidney, and you pour a new wine in an old wine skin, that wine skin will burst because it's old. If you want to try something new, you should try to stay away from something old. New to old. Do you ever think of behavior? To me, behavior is one of the root causes of all waste, or the 8th or 9th waste is behavior. Some of the other are leadership. People are calling leadership a waste. Can any of you imagine why? No? Leadership a waste, behavior a waste. And also another waste coming in, you know, I talked about 7, they're now going to be 10 or 15. Energy is starting to get on the list too. So instead of 7, we got 10 already and going up. I say behavior is the root cause of all waste. Can anybody disprove that? Think about it. Why does lean fail? Behavior. I spent a lot of time with the Schwinn Bicycle Company in Chicago. How many have heard of Schwinn? I'll be surprised if not all hands go up. I'm very proud of that. However, I'm not proud of the fact that Schwinn's not there anymore. That sickens me. They used to be a vital company where we made 1 million bikes a year. Sold out the first day of the year through the whole year. They said, Chuck, go to Japan, get us 300,000 more bikes to supplement our production. What a joy that was. I went over with engineers and I went over with manufacturing tool people. We all went over first class on 747 to Japan and sat in a room that was massive with the Japanese, and we worked together in collaboration and put together the Schwinn. Anybody hear of the Latour, Schwinn approved Latour bike? We bought 300,000 of them. We took those bikes and shipped them all over the country. So we, in total, sold 1,300,000 bikes that year, and we're all very proud. And then once a year, we would meet, listen to this, all of our suppliers, internationally, domestically, all of our dealers, and all of administration would meet in one place once a year all over the world. They talk about collaboration today and co-creation. I'm sure you've all heard collaboration and co-creation. That's a big deal today. Well, that was the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and we were doing that without computers, without iPhones, without fax, without anything. So I'm very proud of those days. I'm not saying that today is easier with those tools. It is. It is a lot easier. So that was my time with Schwinn. I did all the international sourcing and importing, traveled the world. It was a joyous time for me. I learned a lot with Schwinn. I moved on to the General Binding Corporation. Oh, at Schwinn, we did practice lean. We didn't call it that, though. We called it common sense. 5S, organization, cleanliness, having the right thing in the right place. So we called it. Kaizen was called value analysis. Have any of you heard of value analysis? Miles General Electric invented it. We used it at Schwinn. Worked very well. 6 Sigma, 0 defects. That's what we called our program. Very similar, different names. Kanban, we work closely with our suppliers and our customers, our dealers and our suppliers working together. So when we created our sales, inventory, and operation planning, we had our suppliers and our customers together. Everybody know what S&OP is and SIOP? That's when you plan at the higher level. We had all of our major suppliers, Pareto's principle, Pareto's 80-20 principle. We bring our major suppliers in and we know what good demand was and good supply. Then I moved on to a company called Troy-Bilt in upstate New York. Anybody here at Troy-Bilt? Troy, New York? Rototillers. Are they still there? No, they're gone.
Oh, wow.
All the companies I talked about here, Schwinn, General Binding, Troy-Bilt, gone. Sad. Everything is overseas. I'm not saying that's wrong or right, it's just the way it is. I miss it. When I was in Chicago as a young man, I lost the job. I could walk across the street to another firm, walk into personnel, and they hire you. Things have changed. Everything. Any questions so far? Anything you'd like to ask me about my background or anything else? We're going to get into this topic right now, why lean fails. Anybody got any comments that you know about why lean fails? Are there a lot of reasons? Is there one reason? I don't hear anything from anybody. Yes?
I think a lot of times I see it fail that it has to do with buying, whether that's from the top or from the bottom.
Good point. Thank you. Good point. Thank you. Yes?
I think we're a society where we want instant gratification, and lean takes time.
Boy, you're right about that. You see what retail's doing? They got drones flying around delivering retail goods. Come on, man. We can't wait, we gotta have drones? You know the accidents that are gonna happen up there? And then they can open trunks and get in the trunk with a drone. Did you know that? Unbelievable. This world is instant gratification. Anyway, let's go on. Whoops, Eric.
Bounce out again?
Yeah.
Good.
I apologize for this. I don't know why it's doing that. Can you click on it?
Yeah.
There we go. I apologize for that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to lose you. I didn't do that intentionally. Who wants change? You see the people up there? Who wants change? Who wants to change? How many hands? Is that a major problem? Cultural transformation. 80% of lean failure is cultural transformation. If you can't change the habits, the work ways, and the beliefs of people, lean will fail. Cultural transformation enables lean success. Does everybody understand what that means? Cultural transformation? Is that easy? Thank you. People and team-based thinking is the way lean is going to make it. Let me explain this a little bit. We sometimes forget that we have people in this IT world, don't we? We have people. We have my favorite word. Behavior. And we have culture. Anybody want to add anything? These three things need to be transformed. To what? To what? Lean thinking. Easier said than done? Anybody have any ideas? How you do this? Should I just leave it at that and go on? Here's what I recommend. This is one method. One method. One, people. To me, the most important part of lean and implementation is people. Two, survey the people. Have a classified survey go to all the people in the company that are key people. Three, focus groups or cross-functional team. Focus groups. So we start with people, we send out a survey, we have focus groups. What's next? Anybody? What do we need to get out of this? What are people's issues? What are they upset about? What's the problem? What do they need? Does management listen to people every day? Do they? No. So we need to get the issues out in the open. Any comments? Yes.
There may be some environments that don't want to hear the complaints and grumbles. They
Then
don't-
they'll never
they
be
don't-
lean. They'll never be lean.
They don't want any negative thoughts, they want them to be positive,
They'll never be lean. Will they?
forcefully.
Forcefully, that isn't gonna work.
Exactly.
And you're right. I'll get to that later. I'll be able to help you with that. Issues. And then you use Pareto. Everybody know what Pareto is? What is it? What's Pareto? I heard of some and yes. What is it? Alex?
Work 20% of the time to complete 80% of the work.
80-20. The 80-20 principle. Good for you, thank you. You use that whenever you look at anything. You look at a list of 10 items, and 20% of those items will be 80% of the total. Everything I do, I look at my emails, I look at anything I have to do as a consultant, I look at it, Pareto's principle. 80-20. It works. Prove me wrong. Anything. Numbers, issues, subjects, anything. So that you're working on the right thing at the right time in priority sequence. Okay, so you take the issue and you prioritize. 5. Leadership. Your point. It's a good point. Here's how lean can transform people and leadership. Leadership has to listen to people. Can this happen easily in this country? Is this an easy thing?
No.
Is it a paradigm shift?
Yes.
Yes.
And then leadership has to change their tune. They have to go thinking of processes versus people. People aren't the problem for an issue, a quality issue on the line, are they? It's the process, yet we blame the people. It's wrong. Deming will tell you, won't he? It's the process, not the people. Your very point. And at the same time, they have to learn what Gemba is. They have to go to the various points and see what the problems are. They have to be problem solvers. I'm talking about management. They have to use and-on. That means if there's a problem, a quality problem, they have to get involved too. They have to be mentors. They have to send out behavior delegations. They have to tell people what they expected on behavior was. This is the only way it's going to work. If leadership and people get together. Is it hard? So we go from them versus us. Us being who?
The front line.
Right, people. Them being leadership. To what?
We.
From them versus us to what?
Us, or
We.
we.
Or what else? Us. Did I hear us? Yeah, us. This is one method. Now, there's various methods of doing this survey. Some people put placards in the departments and let people, and let people put on whatever they want on a placard in each department. They have town hall meetings, they open up to people. But this is hard stuff, in my opinion. This is where the paradigm shift sometimes fails, or mostly fails, doesn't it? It's a real people issue, yes.
It's the transparency and vulnerability that holds us back a lot of times.
Right. This is where we want to go. This is our goal right here.
I want to get this right at some point.
We and us versus them and us. Them versus us. Leadership versus people for us. You'll be able to have lean this way. Will it be easy? Will it take time? Absolutely. Even if you get this far, it'll take a lot of time. I'm gonna surprise you at the end how much time. Any comments here? Anybody that can help me? Any ideas? Anything I missed? Anything you'd like to add? Please. This is your session, not mine.
In your opinion, what causes the drive for leadership to force their alignment and strategy down to the people instead of the other way around?
Wanting to be lean, wanting to have a culture change.
No, how does it get so bad? So when you have a leadership that forces the alignment of strategy without listening to the people who drive that strategy of finance, who drive that strategy of delivery and not quality, how does leadership get that bad? How is it allowed?
Well, I think through their education, through their history, through going through to their position. It's just how they got there. It's our country. It's our culture. Asian culture, which I'll get to later, is not the same, is it? I'll get into Asian culture later. You hit something right on the head, thank you. Culture is the answer, in my opinion. And it's right up there. Lean culture enables lean implementation. So you hit it right on the head. Thank you. This, and this. That's your critical path right there. It's easy to put up on the board, hard to do. Now I admit that. This takes time, this takes effort. Any comments or questions about that? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, he goes. Well, okay, you just have to do like this arrow and this arrow. It's like from that. These guys. So let's try that as a, as a countermeasure, and then we'll figure out what the root cause is later.
Good cause, I like that.
There we go. It's,
See?
all right. So you just want to use that. There you go. Stay on that button.
Lean is not a project. If you think it is, you're wrong. It's not just a set of tools. It's not 5S, Kanban, Kaizen, Six Sigma. People think it is, so let's just get the tools in and let's not worry about it. We want to show our customers we're lean, so we'll put this on our website. We're 5S, we're Kanban, we're Kaizen. No. And a quick fix isn't going to work. Not going to work. Let me read you something from people that I know and that I've gone through that will tell you something that's interesting. I once had a plant, I couldn't memorize all this, I'm sorry. I once had a plant manager tell me his factory had implemented Six Sigma, but there was not a single statistical process control chart. How's that possible? Another had the control charts in place, but refused to allow the operator to shut the process down when it indicated an out of stock condition. Addressing each of these situations requires a significant shift in management philosophy that many companies are not ready or willing to do. What is the minimum change we can put into place to claim we are doing Lean and Six Sigma to get the board of directors off our back? These are actual quotes. This lady was hired to go into the factory. Her boss moved up and she was hired to take his place. Her name was Mary. She became plant manager. She walked in the first day to her office and decided she was going to take his 5-year synopsis plan and go out into the factory and check it out. Would you like to hear some of what she found? 5-year Lean Six Sigma implementation status report from her boss who just hired her. Okay, you with me? He just hired her. This is what she's writing in her sheet. 5S implemented across the plant and offices. The office should have 5S too. The office should be part of Lean. So should sales, so should everybody else, not just the shop floor. So she says, 5S implemented, this is Mary speaking, across the plant and offices. This is what the boss said, check. Note, still waiting for labels so we can mark where all of the staples and coffee mugs go, then we can focus on pencils and pens. Come on. Green, yellow, red status lights in place and all set to green. Check. Note, no one would dare change a light from green. This would send a wrong signal to any customers who are in the building. Employee process improvement idea board installed in every department. Check. Note, when we can get the necessary funds and daily fires magically go away, we will reassign people to work on these ideas. This is the 5-year plan. Visual management signals in place to drive production. Check. Note, signals are followed when convenient and everything runs 100% smooth. This has not happened yet, but will be someday. Hour by hour production boards installed. Check. Need to replace all dry erase markers since none of the boards have been filled out for months. Management walks to identify waste. Check. Note, employees reprimanded on the spot when waste is found. What does this mean, any of you? What does this mean? What do you call this?
A facade.
Treat it like a project.
Okay, there's a word for it. Come on. When you're on a set of a movie, you see fronts of building, what's behind them? These are facades. And that's the name of this particular number. It says, why your Six Sigma efforts aren't driving better results. The facade of Lean and Six Sigma. Good for you. We can't have facades. We have to have reality. That's why this is so difficult. People try to cover it up and make it look good. So customers come in, they see all these signs, all these colors, all these, but it's not working. It's not doing anything for them, is it? Who are we kidding? We're kidding ourselves. This is important to all of us, education. It has to be important up front, but it has to also be through the entire implementation. Does everybody agree with that? You can't just have a flash of education and drop it. You've got to keep going throughout. And it's got to be both theory and practice. You go to Gemba, you should go to various areas to see what it's really like. Theory is a great thing, practice is a good thing, but together, the best person is a combination of theories and practice, in my opinion. Anybody here have a comment on that? Theory and practice. And everybody, including top management, leadership should be in the class. Because people have more respect for leadership if they're in the class. How many of you always have your leaders in your classes? Did you raise your hands? One?
Some leadership.
Not all. Not the key leaders.
Every leader in every class.
Okay. You?
Am I in every class?
I don't know. Can't answer that.
Is that what you're asking?
I want to know if leadership is part of your classes. Everybody else? There's one person, anybody else? Why is that? Why isn't leadership wanting to learn, they have their own classes somewhere else?
I'm too busy for it.
Is that what they're saying?
That's one of the things.
Not gonna work, is it? Is it gonna work? You wanna see leadership right in there with you, don't you? Learning with you. Learning the theory and the practice. This is why lean fails. Lean must be in the hearts and minds of everybody in the organization from top to bottom. Easy thing? Is any of this easy yet? Any of these something we can do overnight? Culture is very difficult to change. Think about your own companies. I've been, as a consultant, I've been in a lot of companies where I made changes. One as simple as inventory records accuracy, where they told me they had 98% accuracy. I went on and did a cycle count, found out they were 54% accurate. They all agreed with the vice president they were in the 90s, though. It took me 6 months, I got them to 98. Every day. I left, I was done, found out later, 6 months later, it's back to 50. Culture. We're back, it's easier that way, isn't it? Any comments on this? This is important. It has to be in the hearts and minds of everybody to get the results you need.
What if it's not? What do you do with the people who never jump on board?
It's not, it's gonna fail
You need to get rid of them.
if you choose to do that. You get rid of them, you find
There's
out-
some people who never get out there.
You're right, exactly. Either they do or they don't, or they're fired. How else are we gonna do it? Changing culture can hurt a lot of people, because I've met a lot of people who can't change, like you're just saying. The warehouse people that I work with, the way they're gonna change. Why do we need inventory records accuracy? We've been here forever and we live without it. Why do we need it now? Well, because you got back orders every day and customers are not happy? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, right, okay. Because if you don't have your accuracy in inventory, your customers are gonna pay for it, aren't they? Somewhere down the line? Your orders are gonna be short, you're gonna create back orders. Top management has to commit and be involved in the lean implementation. This is critical, and they're not, are they, typically? They're, as you said back there, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but you were right, they're in another area, they're in another level. Wrong, they have to come down and be part of this, to make it work. Management must be able to answer the people's WIIFM. Does anybody know what that means? WIIFM?
What's in it for me? What's in it for me?
You're right. Thank you. What's in it for me? Management has to answer that question for people, for them to believe. You said that people wouldn't believe, they couldn't change. Maybe if somebody explained to them what's in it for them, they could. WIIFM. Maybe if they tell them that their job will be slightly easier, faster, and they can get into process improvement and problem solving, maybe they want to be a part of this. Maybe they could change their culture. Does everybody see that? Is that possible or not? Can we do that? Can we go to the people and do WIIFM? Good for you, by the way. Not many people know that. Okay, so how does this work? Top management has to conceive the culture. See, this is important, that top part. They have to conceive it. Middle management has to create it. And then line level has to live it day to day. I say that management should come down and live it too. They should be part of the Gemba. They should go right down to the workstation. They should be part of Andon. They should be problem solving. They should do what the people are doing, be mentors. That's a big problem. I said earlier, is leadership one of the biggest problems of waste in Lane? Yes, it is. What are we gonna do about it? Can we go up there in the top management to the president and say, you get out there? I don't think I would, if I wanted to keep my job. But it's up to the operating committee and management. If they're failing, they better think a little bit as to why. What's the root cause of failure? You know, we all talk about the root cause of lean. That's an important part of lean, is knowing the root cause of anything. They're the root cause, and better find out why they are. No. Thank you. Focus on lean failure. Poor communication. Management isn't communicating with the people. People aren't communicating with other people. Poor communication. Poor employee engagement. Management isn't engaging with employees, your very point, right? Engagement. Do you know how many companies have good engagement with their employees in this country? Anybody know the percentage? Yes? Good engagement.
10%.
Close. Anybody? It's actually 30, and I think that's too positive. So you're probably closer. When somebody makes a mistake, you really shouldn't criticize them, and management has a habit of doing it. I think I said that earlier. You see somebody make a mistake, and they tell them you made a mistake. No. What do you get when you make a mistake? What do you do when you make a mistake? Nobody? Yes.
You get.
Yes. Who said learn? Yes, you learn.
You learn that it didn't work. But if you beat on the ones that make the mistake, they stop trying.
Yes.
You shut them down.
You should not criticize mistakes. You should sit down and solve the problem so that they learn what the mistake did and how they corrected the next time. You think this is all theoretical? It's not. Don't criticize mistakes. Goals and objectives are very important. They got to be clear. Does everybody know what genuine teamwork is? Have all of you been part of cross-functional teams? Where you sit in front of a whiteboard, you do some brainstorming. Cross-functional. Does everybody know what that means, cross-functional? Does somebody explain it to me? What's cross-functional?
Just different departments of the company coming together.
Why is that good?
Bring everybody who's involved with the process or problem into a room and have them discuss it and collaborate.
Why is it good?
Get to see the other person's point of view.
Yes, you just hit it. People look at it from different points of view, and you come up with ideas. You write all the ideas up on the board, one of these times I'm sure. Write all the ideas up on the board, and then together you pick the best one, or the best two, or best three. Pareto again, you pick the ones that are the best, put them on top. Cross-functional teams, as you just indicated, are very, very important. We at Schwinn used them for value analysis. We'd sit down and man, we'd come up with great ideas. People from the shop floor would come up with terrific ideas for value analysis, for cost reduction, without jeopardizing quality. It works. So, but it has to be genuine. Underline that word genuine. And you can't have parallel talk that you see there too. You have to work together. There should be somebody facilitating and coordinating the cross-functional team that could get out of hand. Can't have that. Key elements of lean. I talked about a little bit. Collaboration is very important. It's also called co-creation. Are you practicing collaboration in your operation? Does anybody know what it means? Do you use it? Do you collaborate with your associates? Anybody back there? No? Then it's not going to work. Does everybody know what it means to collaborate? Work in a spirit of cooperation? Open, honest? No criticism? Speak. Celebrate failure. Don't criticize it, celebrate it. Why not? You're going to learn something from it, aren't you? Are you or aren't you? I do. I make a lot of them. I go back and say, wow, I'm human. But I learned something. Nothing wrong with that. in my opinion. And I think part of lean, there should be a reward system. Why? Why should there be a reward system? For some people, like you mentioned, they won't go with the program, won't change the culture. They should be rewarded if they do something, don't you think? Even a thank you is a nice reward. You know, some top leaders won't even thank their people for it. I've seen it in the industry. Don't say thank you. They're not, they don't know how to collaborate. They don't understand. They come from some universities that they don't understand. They're better than everybody else. I know what you mean. But at Schwinn, we didn't have that. We didn't understand that. No one was better than anybody else. We worked together as a team. But I think that's very unusual, don't you? I was very fortunate. And lastly, I think discipline is important. In lean, don't you all think so? Standard operating procedure, discipline, repetitiveness, doing things the right way, very important. Any comments about this? Extended lean, are you all? Yes, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Just one comment. They're best place I've ever worked. The CEO would have a weekly offsite lunch, and he would invite 10 of the employees on the floor. And the only reason why he would do that is to get their issues. And it was the best collaboration that I've ever seen in a plant. He did that for weeks, for 10 years, every single week, never missed a Friday, took out every employee across the plant and collected their issues and got the voice of the people.
Voice of the employee, voice of the person. Thank you for that. VOE, I call it, voice of the employee. You've heard those terms, voice of the customer and voice of the employee. Voice of the customer is Six Sigma. Companies should go out, as you indicated, to customers, both internal customers and external customers, to ask for feedback from them. And then take that feedback, 80-20, personalize it, and improve your operation based on what your customers say, internally and externally. VOE and VOC. You can look me up on LinkedIn. Everybody know what LinkedIn is. I'm Chuck and Shuri. You can find my articles on VOE and VOC. I believe in VOC and VOE and what you just said. I always did that when I was in production. I would have meetings like that. I want to hear from the people. I don't know everything. I'm not on the line every day. You're absolutely right. You respect the person more for it, don't you? But that doesn't happen too often, and that's a shame. It's our country. It's our culture. Anyway, anybody practice extended lean? Do you know what it is? Everybody in your supply chain, from your supplier, to transportation, to manufacturing, to retail, to warehouse, to 3PL, 4PL, third-party logistics, fourth-party logistics, and finally the customer, are all lean. Can you imagine that? It happens. Some world-class countries, world-class companies, forgive me, have extended lean through their entire supply chain. Does that take time? It's not even under your control, it takes time. But you put up an edict, you're a big enough company like, okay, Walmart or some big company, they're able to do this because they have the leverage, and they say to the supplier, we want you to be lean. They say to transportation. Why should transportation be lean? Did you know transportation is one of the wastes? What we call MUDA? Transportation is a waste, so they gotta be lean. So does a warehouse. You can put 5S in the warehouse, you can put lean in the warehouse, you can put Kanban in the warehouse, and you can put Six Sigma in the warehouse, can't you? After OSHA approves it, of course. Third-party logistics, are you familiar with that? 3PL and 4PL. Everybody's nodding their head. What is it? What's 3PL?
Like I had UPS do all my shipping back and forth for me. Could we just do the shipping, or to be that they store and pack and everything my stuff, so different levels?
Good for you.
But I don't know that.
Anybody else have experience with 3PL? What's 4PL? Nobody? Fourth-party logistics people, companies, handle the whole supply chain for you. You can turn over your whole supply chain to them. One of them is
DSC.
DSC. I'm working with Alex on one of his projects. I'm a mentor to Alex. We're working with DSC. They do the whole supply chain. You gotta pay for it. Then you get the total price from them, and then you see what it would be like to build your own supply chain. That's a supply chain. Supplier to transportation, manufacturing, or retail. You know, retail does lean too. Are you all familiar with that? Retail can be lean. They have planograms for their departments. They're lean in their warehouses. It's starting there too. Everybody aware of that? Retail's lean. Plus instant gratification. Customers, how can they help you be lean? Anybody know? Huh?
They drive the demand.
Huh?
They drive the demand.
That's right. They help drive the demand. They can be part of SIOP, Sales, Inventory, Operations Planning, by giving you good information on demand, and your supplier giving you good information on supply. You have supply and demand right there. All we talk about is IT, and it's a great thing. I respect it for all of you who are in IT. I respect that. But I also respect the fact that face-to-face works too. When you get a SIOP meeting, you can't do it IT. You have to sit down and talk about what a customer can do, what a supplier can do. This is what it is. Supplier to manufacturer, to distributor, to retailer, to shopper. That's a supply chain. And they're changing all the time. I could spend hours on this, and I can't do that right now. But what a supply chain can do. That's called extended lean. Lean goes out of your four walls into your supply chain. That creates tremendous throughput, doesn't it? Instant gratification. Here we go. What does that say? 50 to 95% fail. You know what? That's optimistic. Anybody have any knowledge of how optimistic that is? You know how many world-class lean companies there are in this world? Anybody guess? 50? 25? How many? How many world-class lean companies are out there? Come on. Who's one?
Starbucks.
Starbucks. Who's one? Toyota. Who's two?
Walmart.
Motorola.
Not quite.
Motorola?
No. Subway. No. One is Toyota. Two? No. Come on. Close. Who else? Yes. Honda.
Amazon.
Three. Who's three in the United States? Finally. Caterpillar. Anybody guess who that might be? I bet you none of you know.
Caterpillar.
No. Danaher.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the only three in the world that are world-class. Imagine. How difficult is this? Here's your answer. 3 companies. Look it up. Challenge me. You all have my card. Write me that I'm wrong. Please.
Who's that third one do? What does Danaher do?
They're into biologic, pharmaceutical. You can look them up. Beautiful website. But they are truly lean. I like what they have to say in their website. So that's it. Others are attempting. Yes, all the people you mentioned are attempting, but they're not there yet. For all of these reasons, and that's the reference I got. When I saw 50 to 95%, I said, you're being awful nice. It's for all these reasons it's so difficult. Nah, here's something. Here's something for you. The Asian mentality. When you go visit Toyota, and they don't mind that you come tour, okay? They take you through their facility in detail. They'll answer any of your questions. They'll show you 5S. They'll show you Kanban. They'll show you Kaizen. They'll show you Six Sigma. They'll show you Lean Six Sigma. They'll show you any of their tools. But what don't they show you?
Culture. I just listened to out the Numi plant up in San Francisco area, which everyone knows that it was a dismal failure for GM, and Toyota came partnered with them. They implemented a lot of lean, and then they still went out of business afterwards. And what they were kind of doing a postmortem on afterwards is they had all the tools, like what you were talking about to begin with, but, and that's why they were saying that Toyota had no problem letting them in, because they knew the tools alone wasn't enough. That it was the culture, you know, you had to change the culture of it. And so it took 9 or 10 years for it to fail, I think, after that, but because the bottom line culture.
Philosophy. 4 P's, philosophy, people. What else you see? Processes and problem solving. Now, Ono himself, you've probably heard the name Ono. He's the man. This is where he started. Not upstairs where leadership is. He was in Gemba. He was right on the floor, what you're talking. Right on the floor. And he developed these things. How are we, our leadership's going to roll up their sleeves and get dirty and go down there? That's the culture of this country versus that. I'm not saying they're all right, don't get me wrong, but it is a different culture, a different philosophy, a different way of doing business. You don't build a business, you build people, and the people build the business. People, people, people. That's what they believe in there. They want people to be the problem solvers. They want people to be the process solvers. Do we? I don't think so. Maybe we're getting there. The educators have to go into a company and try to convince them. Good luck with that. Very difficult. Any comments? Any additions? Lean failure boils down to culture. Cultural transformation. It also boils down to sustaining that culture. Once you get it, like inventory records accuracy, I left, gone. Once you get it, sustain it. Very difficult. Are there any questions, any comments, any additions, anything you want to talk about?
Why do you think that is? If they see that there's a better way, right?
Who's they?
The people, right? It's better for them, right?
Yeah.
They work shorter hours and they get paid the same amount, or, you know, they don't have to deal with the broken printer, whatever the issues are, you know, it all gets solved. In this place, you said, you know, they held inventory accuracy. Things are better for the company as a whole, and I'm assuming for them in their department. Why does it slip back?
It's called habit. It's easier to go back to the way you were doing it. I saw it when I was there. When I was about to leave, I saw them already cascading backward because it was easier. Take a longer lunch, take a longer break. I'm not going to come early like Chuck wanted. I had to come in early because I didn't want any transactions going on while you're taking inventory. Do you know you should never have transactions going on when you take an inventory? Physical or cycle count. Come on, man. They didn't care. I said, you can't have a cycle count with transactions going on. So I stopped. I stopped that. I got it all done. We finally had a good physical. We had good everything. But then they dropped it. You know why? Leadership didn't care. The CEO, he was all sales. Operations? He called me in because one of his customers said you don't have accurate inventory, so he hired me. I got it accurate. He didn't care anymore. He let me go because he had more orders coming in and had to ship. Therefore, accuracy didn't matter. I'm sorry, I just don't understand that. I'm an operations guy all my life, so it's hard for me to understand it. But that's where the problem lies. I agree.
It's also difficult to get people to understand that accountability is good.
Accountability and responsibility. Thank you.
Accountability is hard to accept when you're trying to get out of the people and they have to fill out hour by hour for 32 Ps. It's hard for them to accept that they're going to be held accountable for their actions.
Any suggestions?
I've done a lot over the years, but that's the biggest thing in culture change is to get them to understand that the accountability is for the good of the people, for the good of the business. We're not watching you, we're not micromanaging you, we're not trying to catch you doing something. That this accountability is for us to realize where the problems are, where the gap is, where we need to concentrate on, how we increase that flow and tech. That's the biggest challenge. It is a challenge to get them to understand that holding people accountable is not for disciplinary actions, it's for the good of the business.
They take it the wrong way.
Absolutely.
I started to write standard operating procedures for them for cycle time. They didn't know what I was doing. What are you doing that for? You know, well, because I want you to continue doing this. The paradigm shift, very difficult. What's my answer to all this? That's the answer, but can it be done? This is the answer. One method. Besides town hall meetings, besides listening to your people, besides, does everybody know what MBWA is? What? Management by walking around. When I was at Troy Built, I was the head of supply chain and materials. I had 60 people and 4 direct reports. Every morning I would get in, I'd walk down to the shop floor and I'd ask the production people how it was going. Either they said fine, or they were shut down yesterday, or there was a problem. If there was a problem and they wouldn't have the parts or they shut down, where did I go? To my production control department, who reported to me. I said, how come no one told me? Well, we took care of it. I said, that's not the point. I want to know when this happens, so we get to find the what? Root cause and solve it. So I taught them anytime that this happened, I want to know about it. So we huddled and brainstormed the root cause so it doesn't happen again, right? So I believe in walking the shop floor, MBWA, managing by walking around. I put that on LinkedIn and no one really understood what I was talking about. Any other comments, questions, input? Yes?
So what would you say would be your suggestions if one was attempting to take extended lean and apply it in an office environment where you've got a number of offices that, if I see them as correlating to supply chain, they feed each other work. One has to go from one office to the next to the next. The challenges are that management is all different. Management styles are different. Some are quite engaged, some are not engaged at all. Some are managed by higher level management, some are managed by functional managers. So what would be your 3 biggest suggestions you would say if when someone is perhaps doing the most they can in one part of that supply chain, but when it comes to them and where it goes after is where the biggest frustration is for that particular office's work, when they've been working so hard to do it themselves, and they're, you know, we don't want to be a silo. We want to be an extended lean supply chain.
Good word, silo.
So what would be your suggestion?
Can I ask if they're ahead of each of those departments?
Yes.
I would take those heads and bring them into a room and start talking to them.
So what if we are talking, but there starts to be a lot of interference because it's not valued as much, perhaps, across the whole length of this office supply chain.
Not valued?
Right. So the work to put in to do the surveys, to do the focus group, to find the issues, to do the Kaizens, to solve the problems, not all of them are across the board on board.
Do you think it's an educational issue or an attitude issue?
I don't think it's valued the time. You say that, and I think people have touched on that. They don't want to, they see it as a time not a waste, but it takes more time than they have because functionally they're sinking. And so they don't see that if you take the time to do this, you won't be sinking because why you're sinking is because your processes don't work. And they don't feed your supply chain.
How about the leadership of these groups? Are they behind what you're talking about? Would they like to see extended land? Leadership.
I'm hoping. I hope so.
Pardon me?
I don't know.
You're hoping?
Our leadership changes a lot.
My opinion, leadership needs to be part of it. That's the root cause right there.
I agree. I agree that because nobody is taking up the champion torch and saying this is what we're all going to do and then holding the next layer accountable, that's really difficult when, you know, you're trying to do as much as you can and you keep hitting roadblocks for how it gets to you or where it goes from you. You know what I mean?
Can I start Monday? I understand. I could fix that, but I need to talk to management. What's, leadership? They gotta be part of this. They have to focus and say, this is the way you're going. And then the people know that, and then when they're put in a room, they realize they better, or they're gonna lose out, right? She said, they lose their job.
Well, I think some of the key parts you talk about where it's the them versus us, it's not that they're intentionally trying to do that, it's how do you get the right person to listen to at the right time? You try to continue to make suggestions, but you can only go so far. I don't know.
I think part of our problem at Cal Poly, we're all from Cal Poly, and part of it is we've got some grassroots groups around campus trying to push lean up, and I don't know that all, as an organization, as Cal Poly as a whole, I don't think that we have a good leadership base for lean across.
From the top down.
Have you thought bringing an outsider in like that?
Yeah, and I think Eric's trying to help us as well, and trying to bring more.
Sometimes bringing an outsider in helps a lot.
Yeah.
Different dimension, different thought, different thinking. Somebody else to listen to rather than the same people. Sometimes they don't listen to inside. You want to hear it from outside. It's a shame.
How do you suggest getting that message to the right person to make it a priority?
Who is the right person?
President.
Will he listen? Whoever's in charge of making this happen should listen.
He has continuous improvement in his strategic plan.
Chuck, I'm just sort of checking a little sort of time check here. So it looks like we've sort of transitioned into like maybe a wider discussion of the group.
Yes, I'm done. I like the feedback. I like the question.
Okay. So I wanted to, we talked about, sort of why lean fails, I guess, and some of the success factors and issues, and we're hitting on the sort of the leadership thing, the engagement thing, and all that. What are some of the other sort of experiences, and I guess we could go the other way, is like what really works well for some of you guys? I hate to go out of this meeting as a downer, right?
Did I do that?
Well, no, but
kind of realistic, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, well it's realism, but give me some success here, Jim.